Good afternoon, dear friends. There is another program on the air at the Open World site, and I'm its host Fariza Kalimurzina. This time, our program is dedicated to the most ambitious show on the planet, which repeats every 4 years the presidential elections in the United States. For the first time in 30 years, the prospect of a change in the United States administration doesn't raise any positive expectations in Moscow. Regardless of the outcome of the US elections, there is no possibility of improving Russian-American relations and overcoming confrontation. The outcome of the upcoming November 3rd presidential elections in the United States of America is still unclear. The Democratic Party has nominated the former senator from Delaware who held this position from 1973 to 2009 and vice president in the Obama administration from 2009 to 2017 for the presidency and vice president respectively, Joseph Biden, and young senator from California since January 2017, Kamala Harris. The Republican Party approved the current owner of the White House, Donald Trump, as a candidate for the presidency and his permanent partner, M.Pence. Democrats embraced a political platform that, as in 2016, had no name. The Republicans, under the influence of Donald Trump, chose a different path, adopting the 2016 program as their platform for 2020, thereby making it clear that due to the unprecedented political resistance put up by Donald Trump's administration in 2017 to 2020, a significant part of the US political and the financial elite, the Trump-Pence administration failed to fulfill most of the election promises of 2016. Therefore, they need another 4 years to fully implement the mandate they received in 2016. Structurally, the Democratic Party platform contains 10 main sections devoted to characterizing and reforming methods of solving the most pressing problems facing American society. Comparing the platforms of the 2020 Democratic Party and the 2016 Republican Party, with which the Republicans entered the final stage of this year's presidential race, clearly shows the fundamental differences in the understanding of the two main political parties and the political and financial forces behind them that modern America turned out at the most important historical crossroads. In this regard, it can be noted that in 2020, the Democrats remained quite firm in their positions of globalism, especially in matters of foreign policy. American political scientists don't hide the fact that the victory of the Democratic candidate will show the whole world and the American society, first of all, that Donald Trump's victory in 2016 and his stay in the White House were nothing more than a historical aberration, a kind of turbulence in the clouding of American public consequences, which the healthy forces of American society hastened to quickly get rid of. At the Congress of the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris was approved as a candidate for Vice President. Harris' speeches show that she is a supple and intelligent politician who knows how to play in a team and understands that the Democratic Party now relies heavily on the most diverse minorities in American society. Kamala Harris is a supporter of strict restrictions on the circulation of weapons. Harris opposes Trump's decision to withdraw from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action for Iran's nuclear program. Unlike the current US president, she considers it necessary to extend the treaty between the United States of America and the Russian Federation on measures for the further reduction and the limitation of strategic offensive arms, and in general advocates a softening of the confrontation with China. At the same time, both China and Russia, for Harris, are opponents of America who are pursuing a policy hostile to its country, and therefore they need to be effectively resisted. In Florida, both candidates are competing for the sympathy of Hispanics. Biden had the best chance, in Harris's opinion, by nominating a candidate for the post of a Supreme Court judge before the November 3rd vote. Trump deliberately violated the will of the people. She made it clear that the Democratic faction of the Senate is ready to boycott the vote on Barrett's candidacy. This circumstance is already being actively used by the Trump team. Characteristically, on the campaign posters of the Democratic candidate, Biden is often portrayed with Harris. Even on Biden's website, they're together. For Democrats, this tactic of their campaign is quite risky. On the other hand, Harris seems to compensate for Biden's weaknesses. And on the other hand, she emphasizes them. Even during the debates with Trump, viewers could get the impression that Biden is not an independent figure, a kind of talking head, which others will rule. On the contrary, Trump is building his election campaign so that voters have no doubts. He is in conjunction with Pence #1 and intends to lead the country himself. The 2020 presidential campaign revealed a political crisis in the main political figures of the Democratic Party, which 4 years after the 2016 presidential elections failed to nominate a charismatic politician of a new generation capable of challenging the ideology and the practice of Donald Trump's right-wing populism. The main political message of Biden to American voters is that if he's elected president, the country will return 4 years ago by January 2017, and the Democratic president will simply accept the baton from his predecessor Barack Obama. 2 months before the presidential election, Donald Trump lagged behind his rival about 7.5%. It was difficult to win back such a gap, but it is still possible. Even if all wavering states back Trump, he can't count on a maximum of 147 electors. That is, he can't at best catch up with Biden. 2 weeks before the elections, Donald Trump and his rival Biden entered the war of compromising evidence. Some analysts believe that the American Chinese may bring big trouble for the current administration. According to recent estimates, this is 2.5 million people. This part of the electorate went to the Democrats. In a sense, the Chinese in the United States are blacks on the contrary. They don't have any benefits for studying at universities or hiring on work. The Chinese do it without any benefits, gradually increasing their role in a society and the politics. The situation is mitigated by the fact that Indian Americans are in a noticeable majority for the Republicans. The transformation of the Democratic Party into an ethnic and a gender minority party created a leadership crisis. At the finish line of the presidential race, Donald Trump continued to lose the voters of fellow citizens. At the same time, he shied away from participating in a nationwide discussion about racial inequality, which can decide the outcome of the elections. Regardless of who takes over as president of the United States in 2021, he will find himself in a difficult situation. He faces economic problems, the worst since the Great Depression, an ongoing epidemic of a virus for which there is no vaccine, and a fragmented, polarized society. The pandemic escalated by Trump's leadership, and his contempt for science and the experts exposed not only the class and the racial divisions in the country and the inequality reigning in it, but also the unpreparedness of the national health system, not provided with the necessary resources, and the lack of confidence of the population in the ability of authorities to take adequate measures. A president who doesn't bind himself with America first, but takes a more internationalist approach, may be able to restore American leadership to some extent. Biden says that if he wins, he will immediately call allies to mend relations and reassure them that American politics are back on track. This means that the new administration is likely to focus on simpler and more manageable tasks. Rebuild relationships with traditional allies, will make more active use of multilateral formats, will also strengthen the role of the United States in the G7 and the G20, possibly with more emphasis on global economic reforms. Rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, will consider the possibility of extending the New START treaty with Russia. It will also soften its position in relations with Cuba, will again make the cornerstone of American foreign policy the support of democratic values and human rights, which Trump often neglected. And for this, it will work more closely with other democracies of the world. Russia is perceived in the United States as a strategically weakening and fading enemy, whose geopolitical defeat is a matter of time. Russia will remain toxic for any American administration, and this reason dialogue with it will continue to be extremely difficult. The Biden administration will strengthen support from Ukraine and the policy of containing Russia in the post-Soviet space in general. As for the policy of the United States and the new administration to Central Asia and Kazakhstan, its contours are easily guessed. Trump's administration formed a kind of strategy towards Central Asia back in early 2020, which was presented by Pompeo and the State Department during and after his visit to the region. Central Asia is now and in the future important for the Americans, not in itself, but only as a means of influencing the continental centers of power competing with the West. The new strategy is designed for 5 years, is intended to replace a similar document in 2015, drawn up during the Obama administration, who exactly threatens independence of the Central Asian states are indicated in the written part of the strategy, and it was not said in oral explanations, but the context leaves no doubt. These are Russia, China, and Iran. If a democratic administration comes to power, it will continue the traditional policy in Central Asia dating back to the Clinton era. This means, first of all, to actively work with the young generation of citizens of Central Asian countries, to develop a network of non-profit organizations, and to push the topic of democracy, human rights, and civil society. The pursuit of regional goals in Central Asia use public democracy, and the Democrats will inevitably once again become a tool for achieving global goals, such as containing Russian and the Chinese influence. Given its softness and the flexibility in which it differs from traditional state diplomacy, the importance of this instrument of US strategy in Central Asia will only increase in the medium term. The US-Russian great game in the region will continue regardless of which administration comes to power, and the rivalry between Russia and the United States will remain key in the configuration. In the area of regional trade and economic development, the United States is also pursuing the goal of removing Central Asia from the orbit of Russian influence. However, due to geographic factors, Washington's capabilities in this area severely limited. Donald Trump has a chance of losing the election, and this chance is considerable, and the situation may look completely different. At pre-election rallies, the head of state is already openly addressing those categories and the groups of voters that he needs to win. For example, Donald Trump pays special attention to the elderly people over 65. The president himself doesn't focus on his deplorable ratings, preferring to talk about the number of supporters at the rallies and their enthusiasm. The president, who has ruled for almost 4 years, is once again portraying himself as an outsider, a political newcomer who is opposed by the full power of the Washington swamp and the corrupt establishment. Currently, Trump and Biden are trying to change the balance in their favor in faltering states. Pathetic behavior has robbed Trump of conservative voters. Despite Trump's efforts, his position is not improving, while Biden's rating have been holding at 52-53% for several weeks. The calculations of the Republican experts, according to which the head of the White House will be able to significantly increase his electorate, have not yet been justified. The latest presidential debate could change the situation. However, it is worth noting that before the 2016 elections, the alignment was quite similar. The situation has become worse for Trump and Republicans in general among female voters. Trump's position among religious voters was also slightly shaken. And so, soon we'll find out who the next president of the USA. And I wish all of us stability and security, regardless of how the elections end on November 3rd. Thank you. Good luck to you.